China would be thrilled if they could subsidize their way into destroying the American automotive apparatus, partly for economic reasons. But there's another reason that I don't know if you've thought of. How did the United States win World War II? Just big. I know that's a big picture question.
A lot of it was manufacturing.
Exactly. And that manufacturing, some of it was new factories, but most of it was taking over old factories. So we took all of our farm implement factories, like John Deere and Caterpillar. They were building tanks and guns. We took all our automotive factories. We had them building aircraft. We had them building weapons. We had them building missiles. In fact, we even designed those weapons so they could be manufactured by those plants. But literally the specifics of how thick of a gauge of metal you could bend to a certain radius. We were limited by the automotive manufacturing machines as to what we could do in aircraft. And so we won because we had all of this automotive and other industrial capacity. China would love to wipe out the American automotive industry, partly for economic reasons, because it also means we will never be able to fight a war against them. Imagine in America with we've lost a lot of manufacturing. You're probably familiar with that. I mean, we don't make nearly as much as we used to, but we still make a few things. We still have some things that we do, and cars is one of them. And we even export those cars. We're doing okay on cars. If China could wipe out our industrial capacity entirely, they never need to worry about fighting a war with the U.S. again, because they know that we wouldn't be able to get back in the game fast enough to matter. And so that's China's aim there. And it gets back to what you talked about earlier. It's the civil military fusion. Mm-hmm. So this is there's the economic war and the kinetic war that they could win with one move, which is outcompeting our automotive industry.
That's interesting. I never did think of that.
Well, and Andrew has to think about this all the time, because unlike a lot of these other defense companies that are designing weapons that can only be made by really fancy, high-end bespoke factories, we're designing weapons that can be made in existing American industrial capacity. So we make this line of cruise missiles, the Barracuda. We make 3 different Barracuda missiles. It has 90% fewer parts than legacy cruise missiles. It can be made with 10 tools that all exist in every automotive plant. So you could make this missile at mass scale in any GM facility, in any Ford facility. And that's really important for us, because if you can only make your missiles in this specialized factory that took you 10 years to set up, well, what in the world do you do when you need 100 times more of those missiles made every day? Right. You're just kind of screwed. And so the United States has been doing better at this. I think the Air Force is doing better, the Navy's doing better, the Army's doing better. The Army has a whole transformation initiative where they want all of their new weapon systems to be highly manufacturable at scale using real industrial capacity, and working with private companies from the beginning to make sure that they want to make sure that any new system that they are building can be built by the American industrial economy, not only these specialized aerospace technicians, of which there are just not that many.
That's very smart.
And China does this, by the way. This is China. Have you seen the automated cruise missile factories that China has?
I haven't.
Oh man, you've got to look this up at some point. There's some videos that they put out there, and they have this totally robotic line just churning out.
I've seen their
cruise
shipping
missiles.
ports. It's bananas.
Oh, so China has 300 times more naval shipbuilding capacity than the United States. The time that it takes us to build one aircraft carrier, they could build 300. Now, they're not building a bunch of aircraft carriers. They're mostly focusing on other things that are more relevant to what they want to do, which is invade Taiwan. So amphibious landing craft primarily. But another thing China does is they actually require many of their commercial vessels that have nothing to do with the military to build to military standards for 2 reasons. One, because it means that all the shipyards are being built to handle military standards. 2, they plan on basically they're going to press all of these civilian vessels into service. So they're saying, hey, you have this roll-on, roll-off car ferry that's used for moving cars around, for delivering cars to the United States. You have to build it to deck plate pressures that allow us to roll a bunch of tanks onto it so that we can then use it to deliver tanks to Taiwan from the Chinese mainland. And they're just requiring people to do that. And so even their civilian shipping fleet is actually this kind of military ghost fleet just sitting in the open, pretending to be civilian, but the moment the shit hits the fan, it becomes part of the war machine. And so they've done a great job integrating in a way the United States has not.
Do you think that an invasion of Taiwan's imminent?
It's not imminent, but
Inevitable?
It's coming. So Andrew has an internal policy called China 27. The idea is that anything we're working on, anything that we're investing in, needs to be built with the assumption that sometime in 2027, China is going to move on Taiwan. And I might be wrong on this, right? It might be never. It might be a longer term thing. But in general, like imagine how stupid I'll feel if I spend hundreds of millions of dollars building some new weapon system that I know is not going to come into service until the 2030s, which is what most experts say is outside of the window of when this invasion would happen. Wouldn't I feel pretty stupid if there's a gigantic fight and I've spent all my money on something that wasn't ready in time? I think that it is very likely that China moves on Taiwan for a variety of political reasons. So like Xi Jinping has this window politically where he can show that he's reunified China. He's got a lot of demographic problems that are going to go out of control as he waits and people age. He's got a lot of economic problems where they're propping up their economy with a lot of kind of fake GDP, fake growth, fake demand, fake construction. And he's doing that, I think, to help build up his war machine, but it's not sustainable in the long run. So I think there's a window where they can do this. If you had to ask me, it's more likely that they don't do a full-scale invasion to start. It's much more likely that they do something like a blockade. So they'll come up with some pretense. They'll say, Taiwan is exporting goods that say made in Taiwan. And our position is that Taiwan is part of China, and therefore they need to pay Chinese taxes on those made in China goods. So we're going to blockade their port and not let them export anything until they resolve this. And I worry about them kind of boiling the frog. You know, they blockade one port and then two ports and then the airports. And then the people of Taiwan are running out of money, running out of food. But you've boiled the frog enough where there's never a point where Taiwan really wants to fire the first shot and actually start a war. And certainly, like, I think you and I would agree here. The U.S. probably should not start start World War III over a blockade of a port. My opinion is that the United States, we don't want to get into a shooting war ourselves, right? Like, we want to avoid that. The United States needs to stop being the world police, stop sending our people overseas to die for other countries. And instead, we need to become the world's gun store. Taiwan is $20 billion behind on arms deliveries from the United States. These are not things they would maybe like to have. They need these yesterday. China could move in tomorrow. And the thing is, even a blockade, the best way to deter that is for Taiwan to have the things that make them a very prickly porcupine, right? You want to have things like sea mining capabilities that make a blockade basically impossible to affect without destroying the entire fleet. You want things like missiles and counter-missile systems that make it impossible to lock in the country. But we're $20 billion behind.